Your body is physically incapable of experiencing anxiety and God's presence at the same time. Research in neuroscience shows that when your nervous system is in fight or flight mode, you literally can't access the brain regions that connect with spiritual awareness and peace. I, too, have stood where science meets faith, and it reshaped my journey. During my darkest anxiety, this revelation transformed my faith completely. Today, I'm breaking down the fascinating connection between your body's relaxation response and spiritual breakthrough. If you've been feeling distant from God despite praying more, serving more, and trying harder, this message might be the missing key to experiencing the divine wonders you've been seeking. Hey everyone, it's Damon. Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to feel God's presence, the more distant He seems to become? It's like trying to grip water. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers, leaving nothing but dampness behind. This paradox shows up in so many areas of our spiritual lives, and I think it's one of the biggest struggles we face as believers. Most of us have been taught from an early age that connecting with God requires more effort, more prayer time, more Bible study, more church attendance, more volunteer hours, more spiritual disciplines. We've created this unspoken equation. More religious activity equals more of God's presence. But can I be totally honest with you? This approach often creates the very disconnect we're trying to overcome. This paradox isn't merely theoretical. It comes to life in Mark chapter 3. Jesus is in the synagogue, and the Pharisees are watching his every move. These guys were the spiritual superstars of their day. They knew every rule and dedicated their entire lives to religious observance. But when Jesus performed a miracle right in front of them, they completely missed it. They were so focused on whether Jesus was following their Sabbath rules that they couldn't recognize God working before their eyes. Isn't that wild? The very people who tried hardest to connect with God were the ones most blind to His presence. And this affects our physical bodies too. When we're constantly striving, our bodies respond with tension. Muscles tighten, breathing becomes shallow, and stress hormones flood our system. This physiological state blocks our ability to experience God's presence, making it impossible to hear His whisper over our internal alarm bells. Think about the times when you felt closest to God. Was it during intense spiritual striving, or in unexpected moments of surrender? Maybe while watching a sunset paint the sky, or during that quiet morning with your coffee when you weren't trying to be spiritual. Maybe during worship when you finally stopped focusing on getting the words right and just let go, or perhaps walking through nature when you weren't trying to feel anything at all. Relaxation creates both the physical and mental space necessary for divine connection. When we relax, we shift from doing to being, from performing to receiving. Our bodies move from stress to rest, allowing us to become aware of God's presence that was there all along. The first step toward experiencing God's wonders isn't trying harder. It's learning to let go and create space for Him to work. It's about surrendering control rather than seizing it more tightly. What if I told you that the key to experiencing God's miracles isn't by trying harder, but by doing something that feels completely counterintuitive? There's this incredible story in the Bible that transformed how I view spiritual breakthroughs. It's about a man who had suffered for years with a physical limitation that no amount of effort could fix, until one simple act of surrender changed everything. Picture this scene from Mark chapter 3. A synagogue buzzing with whispers, the air thick with anticipation. Standing there among the crowd is a man with a withered hand. Can you imagine his life? In that culture, a physical disability affected everything. His work, his social standing, his very identity. He tried everything. Remedies, prayers, bargaining with God, yet his hand remained useless. There he stood, his damaged hand tucked away in his cloak, trying to blend into the shadows of the synagogue. Around him, the religious leaders watched Jesus with calculating eyes, more interested in catching someone breaking Sabbath rules than seeing a life transformed. Their faces tight with suspicion, they waited. This is where it gets really good. Jesus calls the man forward, puts him right in the center of everyone's attention. The crowd falls silent. All eyes turn to this exchange. Instead of offering a complex solution, Jesus simply says, "Stretch out your hand." Think about what that must have felt like. For years he'd hidden that hand, been ashamed of it, tried to fix it himself, and now Jesus is asking him to expose his weakness to everyone, to extend the very thing he couldn't control. The miracle happened in that tiny moment of trust when he responded to Jesus' invitation, when he stopped hiding his brokenness and instead extended it toward Jesus. The withered hand was instantly made whole, not through elaborate prayers or religious performance, but through one small act of surrender. This single moment of vulnerability mirrors our own struggles, offering us a blueprint for divine healing. It's a picture of how God works in every area of our lives. Those relationships that feel beyond repair, the financial situation that looks hopeless, the emotional wounds that haven't healed despite years of trying. The breakthrough comes not through more effort, but through that vulnerable moment of extending what's broken toward Jesus. I've seen this happen in my own life, with areas I tried so hard to fix myself. It was only when I stopped striving and simply opened my hands and surrendered that things began to change. And what area of your life have you been trying to heal through your own strength? What might happen if, like the man in the synagogue, you simply extended that broken part toward the only one who can truly restore it? That space you create when you surrender isn't just a spiritual concept. It's actually hardwired into your body's design. Did you know there's a biological switch inside you that literally cannot activate healing while you're striving? God designed your nervous system with two distinct modes, and only one of them allows his restorative power to flow. When I discovered this connection between biology and faith, it completely transformed how I approach my relationship with God. Let me explain something fascinating. Your body operates on two different systems that can't function at the same time. Your sympathetic nervous system is like your body's gas pedal. It revs everything up when you're constantly pushing, planning, and problem solving. It's your emergency response mode. This creates a total physiological state. Higher blood pressure, tense muscles, shallow breathing. And here's the critical part. While in this gas pedal mode, your body physically cannot access its healing mechanisms. The system simply wasn't designed to run and repair simultaneously. The alternative? Your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's brake pedal, what scientists call the rest and digest mode. This is where all restoration happens. It's where your cells regenerate, your immune system strengthens, and your capacity for spiritual awareness dramatically increases. Ever wonder why rest feels so transformative? When you consciously relax, your brain waves shift from beta waves, which are anxious and analytical, to alpha waves that are receptive and peaceful. This creates the perfect environment for both physical healing and spiritual connection. I experienced this firsthand during a retreat. After intentional rest, I felt God's presence with remarkable clarity that had eluded me for months. God placed such emphasis on Sabbath, rest in Scripture, because He designed your body to require regular cycles of surrender. Those commands about rest were biological instructions from your Creator, who understood exactly how your body functions. Just as your body needs to shift gears to heal, your spirit must shift to receive God's grace. The default mode network in your brain activates during relaxation and is associated with spiritual experiences, but only fully activates when you stop striving. For years, many believed God rewards spiritual effort. More prayer, more service, more sacrifice. But that contradicts how God designed our bodies and spirits to function. The biggest misconception about how God works is that He responds to our striving when He's actually waiting for our surrender. God doesn't need your effort. He needs your availability. It's in those moments when you finally exhale that your body physically shifts into a state where it can receive what God has always been offering. So, here we are, at this beautiful moment of truth. The breakthrough isn't in relentless striving. It's in the sacred act of letting go. The miracle you've been searching for awaits in surrender. The man with the withered hand found healing, not through years of effort, but in one simple response, extending his brokenness toward Jesus. Now it's your turn. As we prepare for this guided relaxation, identify just one area where you've been pushing too hard. Surrender isn't weakness. It's your invitation for God to work wonders. Take a deep breath. Release the tension. Will you choose anxiety or God's presence today? You are worthy of His peace. Let's step into a space where your body and soul can truly breathe. Stay blessed by the best.